Hi guys, Blackbox here. A few days ago I published a video about pitch and power settings for the FS Labs A320X. I've been getting some requests to do the same kind of video for the PMDG B737, and so here it is. So I've just departed Calvi and I'm gonna climb up to 5,000 feet, and then I'm gonna try to maintain 220 knots, and then we'll see what power setting and which pitch attitude we need to maintain that speed. We are reaching 5,000 feet, slowly reducing the pitch and also the thrust. And I would guess we will need somewhere around 60% of N1, and the pitch, well, should be around 4 degrees. The present gross weight, by the way, is just about 60 tons. So here we are at 60%, 4 degrees pitch, and you can see the speed is barely moving. It's 222 knots, and so yep, this setting works very nicely. Now let's speed up to a speed of 250 knots. A higher airspeed means more lift is being created by the wings, and hence the pitch attitude will be slightly less. And of course, high airspeed means more drag on the aircraft, and hence the required power setting will also be slightly higher. But then again, we're talking about very small differences to the airspeed of 220 knots. The airspeed is now 251 knots. And so we'll try to stabilize the aircraft here and get a good readout for the pitch and the power setting. So I'll say that at 60 tons and 250 knots, you'll need about 3 degree pitch attitude and roughly 64% N1. So let's pretend we're flying manually without flight directors, and suddenly air traffic control tells us to reduce the speed to 220 knots. So since this lovely aircraft doesn't have auto trim, you'll notice that when you reduce the thrust, you will need some nose up trim. Also the same applies when the airspeed is reducing. Be ready to apply some nose up trim as well. Now, since we know that we'll need about 4 degrees of pitch and 60% power N1, as soon as the speed approaches 220 knots, we'll just set exactly those parameters. We have the 4 degree pitch almost, and nicely maintaining 5,000 feet altitude. And so we're just waiting for the airspeed to reach the target. And here we are, reaching the required parameters, and the aircraft flies very smoothly and very balanced. Next, we'll have a look how the parameters change once we increase the aircraft gross weight by 5 tons. So gross weight now is 65 tons, and we'll let the aircraft stabilize again. Level flight 5,000 feet and airspeed 220 knots. This seems pretty stable. So you can see that the pitch has only increased marginally, maybe half a degree, probably a little bit less, and the power is only 2.5% higher. And therefore you can see that you don't really need to learn too many different values. If you have a base value, in our case 60 tons gross weight, and for the airspeed 220 knots, a power setting of 60% with a 4-degree pitch, then even if the weight is 5 tons higher, you'll just simply add 2%, 2.5% more power, adjust the pitch slightly, and voila, you're still at a very stable flight path. Okay, so now the gross weight is 55 tons. So pretty much 10 tons less than we just had. Let's again stabilize the aircraft and check the power and the pitch values. This looks pretty stable, and we have about, what, 3.5 degree pitch and 57% of N1. Then I guess it is proven that 5 tons of gross weight difference from our base value of 60 tons means half a degree more or less pitch attitude and about 3% more or less of N1. Let us now descend to 3,300 feet and fly the localizer approach on runway 17. I've set the gross weight again to 60 tons. And so we'll see what the pitch and power values are for flaps 30 and flaps 40 final configuration. We are stable at 3,300 feet, and now we're going to select flaps 1. And let's have a look how the pitch and power values change. Now, since only the slats extend a little bit, obviously the pitch and power values hardly change at all. So let's set flaps 5 and have a look. Also, we're going to reduce the speed to 180 knots. Now, these values could be interesting to remember because it's also a typical kind of approach configuration when air traffic control tells you to reduce the speed to 180 knots. Approaching the 180 knots target, maintaining nicely 3,300 feet. So let's have a look at the pitch and power setting. So 65% is a little bit too much, and so it should be around 60 to 61%. So let's play around with the gross weight again. I'm going to select somewhere around 50 tons now. So almost 10 tons. Present weight now is 51.6. And so we would expect thrust setting to be a little bit lower, and also the pitch should also be maybe half a degree lower. So here we are stable, and well, let's say we have 3-degree pitch attitude and about 58% N1. Next up, we'll check the settings when we have final configuration flaps 30. Okay, you see that I've set the gross weight again up to 60 tons. And so we'll do the final configuration now. Gear is down, flaps going to 30 in a minute. And then we'll check the power and pitch values once more. We are reaching the target speed, so let's increase thrust to maybe 57–58% and see how things stabilize. So we know from the ground speed, which is presently about 154 knots, that we'll need about 750 to 800 feet per minute of rate of descent in order to maintain the 3-degree glide path. That is what we have at the moment. So just settle in at 800 feet a minute. Here we are. And so the power setting is roughly 56%, and the pitch around about 2 to 2.5 degrees. We'll now go ahead and change the configuration to flaps 40, including the ref for flaps 40. And again, we'll try to settle in at 800 feet per minute rate of descent at target speed.
1,000.
So pitch is about half degree, maybe 1 degree. Yeah, say 1 degree. And the power setting around 62%. Now you're probably going to ask yourself, how is that going to help me fly better approaches? So let me give you an example. I'm doing another approach here, and this time we have 22 knots tailwind component, which will at low altitude change very suddenly. And so we're gonna have to do pretty harsh corrections, and then I'll show you how the power settings can help you stabilize the aircraft a lot quicker. So here we have the wind shear, and suddenly the speed is up by about 15 knots. So I have to aggressively reduce the power in order to stabilize the speed again. And as soon as the speed reaches the target speed, I can set around 60% again, knowing that this will be the power setting to stabilize the speed. Also, I'm checking the pitch, which should be back to around half a degree or 1 degree. There you go, and now we're back stabilized in the approach. Knowing your pitch and power values means there's no guessing, and so try to practice that, and I promise you, you will get a lot more stable approaches leading to better landings and touchdowns. Okay, so one more exercise coming up, and if you've watched my A320 pitch and power video, you know what it's going to happen. I'm going to be failing all the speed indications, and so I have to land the aircraft just with pitch and power. So, presently in the intercept on the localizer 1-2, selecting gear down, flaps going 15, and from the exercise earlier on, I know that I'll be needing about a pitch of 7 degrees and almost 70% power. Again, there's no guessing involved. I can very comfortably set the required pitch and power values, and the aircraft flies nicely stabled and maintaining altitude. Now we're coming up to the descent point at 10 dmi. So we'll configure the flaps 25. Flaps 30, and I'm already trying to maintain 750 to 800 feet per minute rate of descent. And so we remember that for flaps 30, gear down, 3 degree profile, we'll need about 2.5 degree pitch and roughly 57% power. There we go, reaching the 2.5 degree pitch, 800 feet a minute rate of descent. And power a bit high at the moment, I'll reduce it in a second. There we go. Let's have a look at the speed. And we have 149 knots. So a tad fast, nevertheless pretty good for not being able to see your speed at all. Now we know that if the pitch is below 2.5 degrees, in order to maintain the 800 feet a minute rate of descent, then we are too fast. If the pitch is higher than 2.5 degrees, in order to maintain 800 feet a minute rate of descent, then the airspeed is too slow. It's as simple as that. So here we have 2 degree pitch, good rate of descent, and if we check the speed yet again, you can see 150 knots, so a tad fast. So reducing the power, maintaining the descent rate, and just let the pitch come up to the required target of 2.5 degrees. And this exercise is part of the type rating training, and the pilot has to show that he's proficient enough to even deal with a complete failure of the airspeed indications. And a nice soft touchdown, spoilers are activated, reverse green. And there you have it. So this concludes the video on the 737 pitch and power values. I hope you have enjoyed it, and try it out yourself. Get to know your aircraft, get to know the pitch and power values. It really helps you with basic flying. And like I said, it doesn't matter which aircraft type, whatever your favorite type, try it out. If you have further questions, post them down in the comment section below, and I'll be answering as fast as I can. Until the next video, take care guys, thank you for watching, and as always, happy landings.